I've been in the packaging business for 41 years, mainly thermoforming, but also folding cartons and corrugated and foam packaging and all kinds of other things. I started working for Merrill's Packaging about 9 years ago, and just a little bit about Merrill's. We're celebrating 60 years in business. We're owned by the same man who started the company, Ken Merrill, and I'd say we're a medium-sized company based in Burlingame, California. We also have a facility down in Costa Rica, and I'll show you some slides on what we do here in a minute. But we started the medical side of things in 1976, and we were kind of pulled into it. One of our suppliers came to us with some film and asked us if we could form it and cut it, and it happened to be polycarbonate, which is a very difficult material to form and cut. And we were able to do it, so it gave us a tremendous amount of business in the medical sector. And from that, we expanded and got some of the things we needed to do the medical thermoforming. We feel we have exceptional quality, deliver on time, within budget. That's kind of our trademark. We have an ISO 14644-1 Class 8 clean room, supported by ISO 13485, which is something that if you're a medical device company, you would want your supplier to have that and understand the whole medical environment. So just a little bit about what thermoforming is.
It contains, displays, organizes, protects, and even sells the products we buy today. One of the more common ways to make packaging is known as thermoforming, a method that Merrill's has spent the past 50 years perfecting. You've seen it on practically everything. Sometimes called vacuum forming, thermoforming involves heating and softening thin plastic and forming it against a vacuum and a mold with air pressure. Because it uses thin plastic, and because we can use larger, less costly molds, it's both less expensive and faster than other packaging methods, such as injection molding. It looks a lot like an old-style movie projector. We start the process by placing the plastic on the roll stand and feeding it into the oven. The plastic rolls through the oven in stages so that it's at the perfect temperature when it arrives at our press, where it is forced between the packaging mold and the plug assist. The plug assist stretches the plastic and helps it up into the custom mold, while the mold comes down to form the plastic. Meanwhile, a vacuum removes the air between the plastic and the mold, while the pressure box cools down the package and creates extra definition. The package is formed. Next up, the cutting station. A cutting die punches the package out, leaving it barely connected to the sheet so that it will continue onto the packing station. There, our inspectors scrutinize each package to make sure it's 100% perfect. Finally, the thermoforms go into a double-lined box and get shipped to the customer. Done! If we're making medical packaging, this entire process is contained in a HEPA-filtered clean room, free of particles. When it comes to quality, Merrill's never compromises. So for flawless thermoform packaging delivered on time and on budget, just give us a call.
Okay, so what happened about 2 years ago was a gentleman who I'd worked with previously at a small startup came to me and asked me if I would help him out. And I liked the guy, we worked well together, we created something pretty successful previously in the other company he worked for. So I asked him what his project was, and he said there was a bunch of doctors that had decided that they could come up with a better hernia mesh product, and mainly from Duke University over on the East Coast. And they had this product that they didn't know how to deliver to the operating room. And so I got some particulars from him, and basically what he told me was it was a kind of unyieldy device. And what had happened in the mesh space is it was very difficult. Typically you would get just the center part, and the doctor would have to thread needles, he would have to sew them through here and then up into an organ, with very thin string. And that string when the weight was put on this mesh, would cut through the organs and cause failures. It would also sometimes not, it would unattach from the mesh or break through. So there was a couple of problems they were trying to solve. Number one was a wider strand that was more comfortable and didn't cause as much force on the organ and cut. And then the other one was attaching it to the mesh itself. So they had the product, but they didn't know how to package it. And as you can see, if a doctor was handed this, they'd probably throw it against a wall or ask it in the trash can or something. So we, at Merrill's, we have a process called the design review meeting. And we got this in the hands of our designer. And we have a designer that is, he goes above and beyond, and that's probably putting it mildly. He's very talented, he thinks ahead. He does things that most designers don't do. And I wish he was here, actually. And I think earlier it was mentioned that we won an Ameristar for this award last week. So that's something that we get to carry with us for the rest of our lives, which is pretty cool, because I've never even applied for one, and I thought this package was cool enough that we would do that. So we started the process, and we were looking at fishing line, and I don't know if you've ever seen these little sewing kits with needles and thread. And we're starting to think about strands, needles, fishing line, and maybe wrapping it. So I drew this on a napkin, and I sent it to the guy, and he said, nah, the doctors aren't going to like that. They're just, you got to unwrap them, and you know, and the whole process of putting it all together was cumbersome. And he said, I don't think this is going to fly. So let's kind of look in another direction. So our designer, being forward-thinking like he is, he started processing the whole requirement and came up with some ideas. And to show how it worked, he went through a series of steps where he did a PowerPoint presentation. And he showed our customer how this might work. And this, he made a part on he made that part on our rapid prototype machine to demonstrate how it works. And then he went through the whole process of winding it and loading it, and he even made a tray on our rapid prototype machine to show how the mesh strands would go into the pockets and how the needles would attach to a separate part that were on top. And so it was very visual, and it was very comfortable for the customer to understand what the process was going to be. And then this strip here, he made the strip that holds all the pockets in place as you're loading each pocket. So this was all him. I had nothing to do with this, really. He just went nuts on his own and came up with this brilliant concept to contain everything, so that the surgeon could unsnap the needle and pull out the strand, each one individually, and this would be actually laying on the patient. So the package actually became part of the device, which is a pretty cool thing. So anyhow, he went through the whole steps, and ultimately we came up with this design. And let me see here, what's next? Okay, so as you can see, each of the strands is in its own pocket, not like this. And I'll show you what it looks like now when it gets into the OR. Okay, and this has not been opened, so this is actually the mesh and the trays are coming out of the package for the first time. And this is what you get. So it's very nicely contained. All the needles are put in their own little respective pockets, and all the strands are nicely contained and easy to pull out. And it became a very nice package that when we submitted it to Ameristar, they had their vote and selected us. And I don't know if we'll go on. There's another competition for the best in show, and that's yet to be announced. So we'll see where we stand on that whole thing. So the next step was figuring out how to get away from the manual process and do it automated. So they came up with, that should start. Anyhow, this was supposed to start as a video, and what happens is this there's a little thing that slides here and folds these and puts them in the pocket all automatically, so it doesn't have to be hand assembled, and it creates a nice little perfect contained product that doesn't require a lot of labor to put together. So anyhow, that's pretty much the presentation. It's something that we're very proud of. Our design team did an outstanding job in putting it together. And during the design review meeting, we actually had several things we went over, like human factors, sterilization process, any transportation issues, any existing box size issues, size requirements. And then, there is one other thing. There's this tray, which you guys saw, and there's also this one for big guys like me. So there's really two sizes of hernia mesh package, and the small and the large. But anyhow, so that's pretty much it.